iGEM is a special competition for us because it gives us opportunity to practice research and writing article, which can be a really useful skill later in our lives. And also it provides us with opportunity to work in teams, thus practice team management and resource management. We can work in laboratories just like this one and give a presentation to a large audience about what we did during our research.
So in this year's iGEM competition, Team Methungeny has targeted the problems related to methane leakages. One of these problems is global warming and the methane's greenhouse effect, which is around 25 to 32 times greater than carbon dioxide.
We created an opinion survey in order to have a better idea of the perception of GMOs and methane by the public. The survey was available for anyone online and has been filled out approximately 250 times. It is important to mention that the majority of the responses come from Hungary and almost 30% of the interviewees are under 18.
Our goal was to create a methane biosensor which changes its color in the presence of methane. For this we chose the liquid growth medium of a bacteria, Methylcoccus capsulatus, which utilizes methane as its sole carbon and energy source. To detect methane presence, we have to observe the rate of Methylcoccus capsulatus' metabolism. For this, we had to find an organic compound that is not used up by Methylcoccus capsulatus' metabolism. We observed that it does not produce lactate during its methane utilization, thus it could be used to show us the rate of metabolism with its presence, if it was added as a product to its metabolic pathway, which is proportional to its methane uptake. Thus, lactate accumulation indicates methane presence. We noticed that during its methane utilization, pyruvate is present in its metabolic pathway and it is convertible into lactate with the help of the enzyme called lactate dehydrogenase. We had to insert the gene of LDH enzyme into Methylcoccus capsulatus. First, we thought about directly transforming it into Methylcoccus capsulatus in a plasmid, but it turned out that it has a very low transformation efficiency of 10 to the minus 7th. We found out that with the help of a type of conjugation, namely triparental mating, we can achieve greater efficiency. The method we use is triparental mating, which requires a donor cell that is equipped by the plasmid we want to insert into a recipient cell and supporting this process by a helper cell. In our case, the donor cell is an E. coli, which is equipped by the plasmid we constructed. The helper cell is also an E. coli, but it carries PRK2013. And of course, our recipient cell is Methylcoccus capsulatus, which at the end of a successful process will obtain our constructed plasmid. To design the plasmid, we had to choose a vector, a right type of LDH gene, and the promoter for the gene. Given that Methylcoccus capsulatus optimally operates at 45 degrees Celsius, for the LDH our choice was the LDH of Bacillus coagulans due to its thermotolerance. We had to find a promoter which undoubtedly works in Methylcoccus capsulatus. For this, we choose the promoter of a gene in Methylcoccus capsulatus' genome. The promoter was described to have high efficiency. We could not find the exact promoter sequence, but there were genes on both strains of DNA sequencing in the opposing direction, and between them there was an about 300 base pair region which unquestionably contained the promoter. Okay. The plasmid in which we put the gene and the promoter was chosen from the plasmid family PMHE. This is a synthetically made plasmid family which specifically works in methanotoroph bacteria. Our final choice was PMHE5 and PMHE7 because they both were available and both contain T7 promoter and T7 terminator, which is necessary for us in E. coli to replicate the plasmid. It also contains many restriction sites that provide places where we can insert our gene and promoter. For the gene, we choose the restriction site NCO1 and EcoR5 because NCO1 produces sticky end DNA, whilst EcoR5 produces blunt end DNA, thus we can orient our gene in the right direction. For the promoter, we found a place that does not disturb T7 promoter and is before the gene. This is BGL2 restriction site. It is notable that these restriction sites are found only once in the plasmids. In order to put the gene and the promoter into the plasmid, we had to expand them by the right restriction sites. Right before the gene, there is an 8 base pair long non-coding sequence followed by an NCO1 restriction site, followed by an additional non-coding region of 8 base pairs, and then the gene itself begins. At the end of the gene, there is another non-coding sequence consisting of 8 base pairs. After that, an EcoR5 restriction site is synthesized, which is followed by another non-coding sequence, then an NCO1 restriction site, and the gene ends in a non-coding sequence. We put another NCO1 restriction site at the end because we wanted to test the efficiency of putting the gene in with 2 sticky ends. When constructing the promoter, we put a non-coding 8 base pair long sequence at the beginning of it, then we put a BGL2 restriction site after it, which is followed by another non-coding sequence consisting of 8 base pairs. Then comes the about 300 base pair region containing our promoter. After this region comes the same construct as before the region. Thus, our final construct is made up of PMHE 5 or 7, our promoter region after BGL2 restriction site, followed by the T7 promoter, followed by our gene between NCO1 and EcoR5 restriction sites, and finally the T7 terminator. When the plasmid was finally constructed, we transformed E. coli with it. By triparental mating, we got the plasmid into Methylococcus capsulatus. Then we completed the medium containing the lactate enzymatic assay. Thus, our Methylococcus capsulatus in the medium produces lactate in the presence of methane, and this lactate changes the color of the liquid.